I want to go over a story with you today. And just like any other love story in the 2000s, it starts in an online chat room where two people meet. And for 7.5 long years, these two people end up building a really strong connection. But deep down, neither of these people know that the other person is lying to them. One person is sending completely fake photos to the other person, and the other person is sending real photos but dramatically doctoring these photos in Photoshop. But what do you think happens when it gets to a boiling point and these two people finally do meet? Do you think they're gonna realize that beauty is only skin deep and that they actually fell in love with the person sending the text messages rather than the photos that they were sending to each other? Is time going to stop? Are there going to be fireworks in the air? Are they going to ride off into the sunset happily ever after? Or is all of this going to blow up in their faces and 7.5 years of connecting with someone is going to go down the drain? Well, we're going to find out today. So let's hop right into today's video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button on the way in. And let's meet our first catfish. So we meet Ashley, a 20-year-old girl from Georgia who met a guy named Mike in a chat room 7 years ago when she was 13. Her and Mike instantly connected and they ended up swapping phone numbers only a week later. Ashley then goes on to write to tell Neve and Max that Mike ended up growing into someone that she could deeply trust and confide in. Ashley then comes clean though to Neve and Max about how she's been dramatically altering her photos with Photoshop and that she's been lying for 7 years to Mike. This is when Neve and Max realize that in this story, Ashley is the catfish, but they still seem on board with helping Ashley come clean. To be honest with you, I feel like content in this genre isn't the most, so I'm guessing stories where they're either exposing the catfish or helping the catfish. But baby, content's content. Quickly moving on, Neve and Max decide to give Ashley a phone call, and this is where we get a deeper in look on Ashley, the person. They end up giving Ashley a phone call and she describes to them about how she's been photoshopping her photos since she was 13 years old and that she has two other skinny siblings that has been giving her some type of body dysmorphia for pretty much her entire life. They start to ask Ashley questions about her and Mike's relationship and have you guys ever tried to meet in the past before? And she tells them that yeah, they've tried to meet 3 or 4 times in the past, but actually she's the one who's actually always gotten cold feet and never wanted to meet up with Mike. She then goes on to tell Neve and Max about how Mike makes her feel loved, seen, and beautiful, which deepens the knife knowing that she kind of photoshops her photos. But after this conversation with Ashley, Neve and Max seem even more on board with helping Ashley come clean and helping her in general. So Neve and Max pack up and head straight for Georgia to have a sit down with Ashley in person. And mind you, I just kind of wanted to point out during all this, my man Neve has a broken foot. So aspiring note for content creators, and I'm also taking this to heart for myself, bro, the content train don't stop. My man's got a broken foot and is traveling across America to get this content. You got to give Neve props for this one. During this sit down with Ashley, we would get to learn a little bit more about her views on the world and about her childhood. Ashley said she views the world as telling her that if you're not skinny, blonde, and tan, then you're ugly. And having a worldview like that can definitely warp your ideals and perceptions of yourself and your self-worth, which is really bad and harmful to your own mental. And then you would also find out a little bit more about Ashley's childhood and how Ashley actually comes from an adopted family. Since her childhood, Ashley's been a little bit of a bigger girl, and growing up in an adopted family, her siblings were apparently very pretty and slim and were very girly girl, whereas Ashley was more of a hermit and liked to stay in. You find out that Ashley really bonded with her stepfather, and while her siblings would be going out shopping, she would stay at home and watch football with her dad. So you start to really feel for Ashley and her struggles with being confident within her own body. And this will be the point where Neve and Max ask Ashley, hey, in the looks department, how high does Mike's looks rank for you and how much you love him? And she would go on to say something along the lines of, "It's not very high. I just want him to be the same person." So this lays the groundwork for that if this person isn't who he says he is, as long as he's the same person, will Ashley still love him, or is she just blowing smoke right now? Are you enjoying the story so far? If so, you should definitely leave a like on this video. So far, things have been pretty normal. Your typical catfish story. Nothing too crazy going on. But now, after having this sit down with Ashley and finding a little bit more about her and how she is the catfish, and to this point in time, Neve and Max think that they're helping Ashley, the catfish, come clean to a guy that she's been catfishing on the internet. But this is where in the story things would quickly take a little bit of a shift when Neve and Max ask, "Hey, can we see some pictures of Mike and see what he looks like?" Immediately into seeing Mike's photos, you can pretty much tell that they're all fake, and only 2 of the photos are of the same person. The third photo that he sent is honestly either a completely different person or just him at a younger age, or one of those things. And then Mike and Neve turn to Ashley and they ask her, "How did you never question this before? You never thought that he could also be catfishing you?" And her exact response was, "Well, I mean, I never really put too much thought into it." And that I can actually believe, because she's catfishing Mike. So as long as he's not digging deep into her lies, she's just going to be oblivious to his, almost in a sense. But this would be where Neve and Max ask Ashley, "What makes you ready to do all of this now? Like, what was the point in your life that you decided now that you wanted to go forth and finally meet Mike?" And I'm guessing after 7 years of being in an online relationship with someone, eventually you either gotta meet or it's gotta end. And I guess she finally just wants to meet. So this is where Neve and Max set off to do their super sleuth and dive deep into the mystery of who Mike really is now. During Neve's and Max's initial searches for Mike online would yield no search results. Mike had 0 to no online presence. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing on Google with reverse image search would bring up or link back to anything of the pictures that Mike sent Ashley over the years. But the case would catch a big break when they would find the Facebook page of the sister of Mike, and they would reach out and try to get in contact with Mike's sister, and what happens next is nothing less short of shocking. Gina will go on to instantly call Neve and Max and let them know that, yeah, she does have a brother named Mike, and her brother does have a friend named Ashley. And then Neve and Max would go on to ask Gina questions about her brother and his physical appearance, kind of skirting around the question, almost like I believe Neve asked Gina, "Would you describe your brother's physical fitness as being that of an Abercrombie model?" alluding to whether or not the pictures of the guy with the six-pack that he had sent were actually him. And I think Gina picked up on what Neve was trying to ask and politely said, "Hey, I don't believe I should be talking to you about this. I think that's something more of my brother for you to talk about. But my brother is a private guy, so I don't think I should say too much." And then Neve and Max pretty much just asked Gina to be like, "Hey, we're trying to get in contact with him. Would you mind letting him know that we're looking for him, and could you just relay this message?" Things would take an interesting twist when Neve gets a call from Mike, and they finally get a chance to talk with the man himself. And the first question Neve has for Mike is, "Are you the same person in your photos in real life?" And Mike, with no hesitation, completely comes clean and says, "No, those are not me in the photos. I honestly thought Ashley would kind of understand or get it." And they tell him no, she didn't. She actually believes that the photos you sent are of you. But if you think back in the timeline, you remember that Ashley said in the looks department, the attractiveness is kind of like low on the scale for her. And as long as Mike is the same person, then this shouldn't really be much of a problem. And I do also want to add that I'm really proud and I'm happy to see that, like, as soon as Mike comes clean, almost instantly as soon as he's asked if those photos are him. He doesn't hide it. He doesn't skirt around the question. Neve and Max would then go on to ask Mike if he was willing to meet Ashley, and in fact, he says yes, but he wants to meet Ashley when there's less cameras around. Mike reinstates that he's a really private guy, and he's been wanting to meet Ashley for some time now, actually, but he would rather do it now when there's just less cameras and it could just be them two, which is kind of understandable. Mike's been pretty upfront and forthright this entire time, and even earlier in the video, we can recall that they have tried to meet 3 or 4 times in the past, and in fact, it was actually Ashley that was getting cold feet. So at this point in the conversation, it's gone to a stalemate. Mike confirmed that it wasn't him in the photos, but he also doesn't want to meet with Neve around because of the cameras and him being such a private guy. So Neve and Max head back over to Ashley's place to let her know what they've just found out. Neve and Max would then go on to fill in Ashley on their findings about Mike and let her know that he called them directly during their car ride over here. And they were going to tell her that they did confirm with Mike that the pictures he sent Ashley are not of him. And what happened next kind of shocked me, because Ashley starts to cry at the thought that Mike isn't the same person in those photos. And I honestly didn't expect this, because I thought she fell in love with the person that she was texting, when I honestly think now we're starting to learn that she started to fall in love with this really handsome, good-looking guy with this six-pack and muscles that was texting her, maybe not the person that she was texting. Neve would then sneak outside and go to call Mike on his phone and work that good old Neve magic. I don't know what Neve did or what they talked about, because the camera only shows specific scenes or certain cuts of what they said during their conversation, but Neve works some crazy kind of magic and actually convinces Mike to meet up with Ashley on camera. Even after he said he was willing to meet up with Ashley, but he wanted to do it in more of a private setting, which is kind of crazy and shows that, man, Mike is standing on business and he really does want to meet Ashley. So now we've reached the climax in this story, and I reiterate and bring this question full circle now. Our two protagonists are now finally about to meet face to face for the first time in 7.5 years. Do you think sparks will fly? Do you think time will stop? Do you think our two heroes will run into the sunset together happily ever after? Or is this 7.5 year online relationship going to blow up in their faces, and this is all going to come to an end today? This is the moment we find out. So now we have Ashley standing outside Mike's house, nervously waiting to meet him for the first time in 7 years. And Mike finally comes out, and Ashley gets to see Mike for the first time and realizes that he's not the Abercrombie model that she thought he was. And you can kind of see the disappointment in her face. Mike seems really nervous and pretty excited. Mike's also a little bit of a big dude, but Ashley's also a big girl. Mike's a handsome dude, and Ashley, by all means, is still very much a pretty girl. This seems like the perfect match, right? But things start to get a little awkward, and Neve and Max pick up on things getting a little awkward. So they opt to ask Mike, hey, can we come in for a bit and we'll sit down and we'll talk. The conversation inside starts off with Mike pretty much coming clean with all of his feelings for Ashley and telling Ashley straight to her face that throughout the years, settling down for me has only seemed to make sense with you. And while Mike is sitting there pretty much putting his heart on the table and confessing his dying love for Ashley, Ashley sits there absolutely brick-faced, no emotion, not saying a word. So Neve quickly picks up on the fact that Ashley isn't talking right now. So Neve says to Ashley, why don't you tell Mike about some of the struggles you've been going through and how you've been altering your photos. So Ashley starts to tell Mike about how she doesn't like to take group photos. She did not want to attend her dad's funeral because she would have to be seen in public next to her sisters, who are skinny and what she considers beautiful. And after hearing all that, Mike straightforward says, I don't really care about all of that. I love you for you, the person that I got to know over the last 7 years, and I want to be with you. And right as Mike says that, the room goes quiet. and there's just an eerie silence, and it's honestly unsettling. You could have cut the tension in the air with a butter knife. Again, Captain Navajo would come in to save the day and pretty much see the silence in the room, and they would actually ask if Ashley wanted to step outside with Max, and Neve would stay inside and talk with Mike. With Ashley stepping outside, we start to really find out that Ashley's not attracted to Mike in the slightest. Ashley talks about that, yeah, maybe she thought the pictures were fake, but she didn't think that it would be two sides of an extreme. One extreme being an Abercrombie model, and another extreme with Mike being a little bit of a bigger dude. It's kind of sad to see because Ashley's a little bit of a bigger girl, and you would think that they would have fallen in love with the person behind the text messages and maybe looked a little bit deeper than skin deep beauty for forming a long-lasting relationship. These two people grew really close together, and at one point were saying I love you to one another and how they were going to marry and be together forever. And now Mike is confessing his love for Ashley despite whatever she may be, you know, on the surface. And unfortunately, Ashley's just not attracted to Mike, and that's just unfortunate. Our two protagonists in the end did not find love. Mike was head over heels for Ashley in the end, despite whatever she looked like, because he fell in love with the person, and Ashley could not get over the fact that Mike was not the Abercrombie model that she thought he was from his photos. This makes me really sad, and I start to question love a little bit in life because of situations like this. Two people just spent the last 7.5 years confiding in each other, growing close to each other. Mike was there for the death of Ashley's father and some other traumatic events in life. They've been texting since they were 13, and now they're in their early 20s. This story did not have a happy ending in the end, and what I'm going to tell you next is going to shock you and rock you even further to the core. Later on that year, after the events of this catfish event and Ashley and Mike finally meeting in person, Mike would go on to die from a medical condition. I did read in the article that it was something health related, but I won't go into great detail out of respect for my man Mike. And to even thicken the pot, later on that year, Ashley herself would also pass away. But this time, Ashley's cause of death was never released to the public. If it is, I'll edit it into the video later, but I don't think that it was. So this story ended not only with our two protagonists not finding love, but both of them sadly losing their life, never having had found love. It definitely makes me want to value life and the time that I have with the people that I do care about. Go out there and seize the day. Don't be afraid to take risks, and remember the story of Mike and Ashley, and don't let opportunities pass you by. If you made it this far in the video, I genuinely appreciate you, and I really hope you enjoyed this story. This was kind of a crazy one for me, but thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.